Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
It is currently 6:49 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, January 9th, which means we are an hour and 11 minutes before the game to be played between the Red Wings and the Ducks in Anaheim, on the heels of one of Detroit's worst performances of the year against LA last night.
Decade? Century?
So, everyone, you're welcome, because we're going to record a full episode on the night before a 9-0 win, wherein Seider scores 3, Raymond scores 2, Zadina scores 3, and Nedeljkovic scores 1, inevitably.
We'll have to do another episode because I said if Nedeljkovic scored, I would go post-game.
That's right. Yeah, that was your rules. You would only stay up really late.
I'm going to be really upset if he scores because I did not physically or mentally prepare for that.
And you know our commitment to the bit. We'll hold you to that. Brad and I will stay up and record that episode with you.
I'm feeling very confident that I will remain asleep.
I mean, Nedeljkovic is more likely to score a goal than at least 1/3 of the roster right now.
Also true.
Yeah, Nedeljkovic scoring at this point is more likely than the Zadina 2-goal game. This episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast comes after a lot of us stayed up really late to watch that with a capital T. And so we'll do our best to not get too drudged down in it, which is why we're going to have a discussion outside of just...
Do you have Pokemon cards over there?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Okay.
They were kind of a nostalgic gift.
Those are probably worth a lot of money.
Yeah, I don't know whether to open them or sell the boxes sealed. I didn't buy them, but they were bought for me, as like my brother and I used to play with them, obviously, when we were little kids. And I have those boxes now, like sealed and stuff. So I don't know what's worth anything. I haven't.
You know, someone listening will know exactly how much those are worth.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm gonna get a DM about it, and I look forward to that. Actually, that's my new default. If I don't know anything, I just go in the Patreon Discord or.
Yeah, screw Bitcoin. Just get Pokemon cards these days.
Brad, write that down. Write that down. Anyhow,
Nah, I'm good.
Glad you both made it here. Some pretty fun whiteout conditions. Have we been snowed out? Yeah, we have been snowed out of the podcast before. Yeah.
I'm sure we have.
Back when it was at Brad's place and we had to go down those county roads.
Yeah. The horses out plowing the 1-lane road.
Oh, God.
Which always made me laugh because there was a faster way for you to get there. You just never took it and it was right down the highway.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a little stubborn.
That's not part of the experience.
No. Anyhow, welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast, folks. Here to talk about Red Wings hockey, for better or worse. I'm Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
On this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast, we'll, of course, talk about the Red Wings game against the LA Kings, as much as that's worth talking about. The game that was postponed and is being played probably by the time will have been played by the time you're listening, / is going to be played in about an hour's time from our recording against the Anaheim Ducks. We're going to be checking in on the Calder race. I think it's a good time to take a pulse on that and see where things are at now that the cards are on the table. And we have some NHL news, including the Evander Kane saga continuing, the Arizona saga continuing, Marc Bergevin's story continues. Just a lot of things continuing, more or less. And then
None of it good.
No. Well, if I'm Marc Bergevin, I'm thrilled.
Yeah, the guy who drafted Logan Mailloux and tried to sign Slava Voinov. Yeah, you know, we only wish good things for that guy.
And we'll jump into overtime at the end of it. Before that, I want to mention our Wings Money on the Board campaign in benefit of the Jamie Daniels Foundation. If you haven't checked it out, go to wingedwheelpodcast.com/blog and check out the post, Wings Money on the Board, how you can pledge to games or make pledges to the Jamie Daniels Foundation based on results from Red Wings games or the entire season. It can be everything creative from $100 for every Nedeljkovic shot attempt to 25 cents for a Moritz Seider hit, or $5 for every Raymond goal, as much or as little as you want, and you can be as creative as you'd like about it. Lots of fun giveaways associated with the campaign as well. So wingedwheelpodcast.com/blog, and that is in support of the Jamie Daniels Foundation. Okay. Brad, one of my biggest pet peeves from a while ago is when we would have a topic to talk about and it was very obviously a cut and dry thing. And I would say, all right, let's talk about topic X. And Brad goes, topic X, this is good, this is bad, done. And I'm like, well, there goes 15 minutes of good content. I understand that today because I don't want to talk more about the Red Wings and the Kings. Like that was, it's one game. One game does not a season make. One game doesn't define the entire, forward group, defense group, coach, goalie, whatever. But man, yes, it was made worse by the fact that we had to stay up until 10:30 to even get to puck drop, but that was a rough effort. That was bad.
I literally went to bed an hour before the game started and then just sat in bed watching TV till the game started and then turned the game on. It was bad. I guess we'll start with the positive. Very brief discussion, but it's worth mentioning. Alex Nedeljkovic.
Yep.
Phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Deserves a free
Never
dinner.
came close to winning that game, but he was phenomenal.
No. There's not a goalie in the league who could have stolen that game.
No, absolutely not. He tried his best. LA only got 3 on him, one with an empty netter. That feels like a minor miracle. It was probably the most impressive, 927 save percentage I've ever seen in a game.
Was that it? How much it was?
It was about that, yeah.
Oh.
Imagine giving up 3 goals and still getting a 927 or whatever it was. Everything else, though. Literally. Seider had a nice rush.
It was 927 exactly. I am not kidding. That Seider deke at the end was the highlight of the night for the Red Wings.
Yep. And it didn't even lead to a scoring chance in typical Red Wings fashion. My favorite part about that, and I was going to tweet it out, but I'm like, no, we've had too much negativity. When you tweeted the clip, I didn't see it till the next morning, but I was like, he did all that, and he was in the zone by himself for a good chunk of time. And then when he did move the puck, had no options. So it's like, it seems about right.
So the Red Wings were meant to have a game on Thursday night against Anaheim. That got postponed to, obviously, an hour from now. And so LA was the first game of their West Coast road trip here. So LA was on Saturday night, as we've mentioned. And yeah, it ended up being a 4-0 game. One of them was an empty netter. The shots were officially, by the time it was all counted at the end of the first period, on goal, 27-2 in favor of the Kings. 27-2. Max said it well. LA had that game won within 20 minutes.
It didn't even feel like that long.
No. The worst part is it was 3-0 and 2-0 for an extended period of time. It wasn't an insurmountable lead, but there was not a single breath of life in my mind that looked threatening at all from the Red Wings. Worst performance of the year?
You could argue of the decade, and I'm not even saying that to be like sarcastic or facetious. Like you could make a case that's the worst game the Red Wings have played in the history of this podcast, at least.
That game fit into the season, like not last season, the season prior, right? Where it was
1920, damn near record-setting in bad ways Detroit Red Wings. Yeah,
it's like someone went and traveled back in time and grabbed a game from that calendar and put it in this year. It was uninspired, would be a generous way to say it.
Yeah, the only scoring chance I remember was when the Kings gifted Seider the shorthanded breakaway.
When you were like, oh, maybe Seider will score another shorty. And nope.
Good effort. Good save.
Yeah, Cal Peterson's great, eh?
Yeah, he's all right. Having a rough year, but he's good. It was a good save. Then they did. I don't think the Red Wings had a scoring chance the rest of the game, and I'm actually not even certain that is also a joke.
There was a point on a power play where they showed more or less the new power play formation. Max wrote about it. They pulled Raymond back to the left flank, which I thought was good. It was like one of the options where I was like, let's move Raymond off the bumper and either put him on the right half wall or the left flank. And they gained possession and they cycled well in the zone, and it actually worked. Like it did work. I was like, that's good. I was like, keep that up. And the rest of that power play was terrible.
Oh, I thought you were going to the joke of that, because there was one time that whole game. Again, I fell asleep at second intermission because that third period was not worth staying up for, and I had to work this morning. Where So unless they did something in the third period that I missed, which reading all the recaps and I didn't, they were able to tee Raymond up once, where they cycled it successfully and created the space for him and created the lane and got the puck to him. Raymond caught all of it, put it maybe 6-7 inches over the net, ringed it off the glass, created some pressure for the Red Wings defense on the right side where the puck ended up, which directly led to an LA goal. So that about sums up the night, where the one good thing they did on the power play the whole night ended up in their own net. So yeah, like I think it was even last episode was the shining example where we were talking about, yeah, the Red Wings defense is bad, but even when they're competent, their offense is so inept that the defense has to just work overtime, and they are asked to do way too much because the Red Wings cannot sustain any offensive zone pressure. Well, last night was the perfect example of that happening to the extreme and the defense also being catastrophically bad.
It was a display that leads into a conversation that I think it's worth having here. 12-5-2 is the Red Wings record at home. 4-11-1 is their record on the road. That is nearly a direct inverse. There's obviously the benefit of having last change at home. You have your home crowd, you have your home arena, your home amenities. You don't have to travel as far, et cetera, et cetera. You're not as worn. That's a benefit at home. But to the tune of an 8-win difference, this is something where, yeah, in a developing year, in a year where you're not challenging for the cup, it's not the end of the world, but it's something that the Red Wings have to get in order, because you can't be a competitive team and you can't keep developing if that many of your road games are just complete wash.
So this highlights two things that I think most of us have known to be true for a while. The first one, I think everybody can agree on. This team is propped up by 5 players.
Yeah.
And at home, you can deploy those 5 players how you would like in optimal situations, and they will succeed. And you look at most of the Red Wings wins this year, it has been on the backs of those 5 players. On the road, Dylan Larkin's going to see a full night of Philippe Danault. Mo Seider is going to get the other team's top offensive unit. Like, they are not going to have favorable matchups. And they don't do poorly in these matchups. Don't get me wrong. This isn't a knock on Seider, Raymond, Larkin, etc., saying, hey, yeah, they need to step up. No, they've done well themselves in that matchup. But what happens is the other 3 lines also get the matchups the opposing coach wants, which usually results in them getting absolutely caved, last night being the most extreme example of that. So when you have a rebuilding roster and pretty terrible depth, that's going to happen on the road, and that's not shocking. And then the other where less people will agree, but I think we all are very critical of Jeff Blashill's systems and a lot of what he does, and that also gets highlighted when he's on the road, because some coaches can coach their way out of these deficiencies to at least kind of what Barry Trotz has done in the Islanders to the other end, where he knows what his team's weaknesses are and he can deploy a system to hide them very successfully. Blashill can't. And he's had 6-7 years of the same problems. This year, again, being the most extreme example. So I'm sure there's some outside factors that attribute to that as well. So it's not entirely on him. But when the special teams aren't working on either end of the puck, when the defensive system isn't working, when the offensive system is a negative value, when the transition game doesn't happen, it just gets amplified when the matchups are that much worse. So, again, this isn't surprising. It's just getting worse as the season goes on, where we talked about this 6 weeks ago. Yeah, we're pretty sure this team's still really, really bad, but those 5 players are able to win them games because, unlike previous years, the Red Wings have elite talent playing at an elite level. But this is the reality of where they're at. They're not all that different from the last 2 years. Yeah, some of the dead weight's gone, and that helps, but it's not like they were replaced by superstars. They were replaced by younger, competent bums. So it's almost exactly what we expected, just not this bad this fast.
The biggest thing for me is I almost forgot during the rebuild how big of a difference one single star player can make for your team. And you're right, Brad. It is 5. Larkin, Bertuzzi, Raymond, Seider, Nedeljkovic. Those, and not to say, Fabry or Nemesnikov or Seider. Like, I think there's a lot of guys in the Red Wings depth who have their nights or even have had quietly very good campaigns. I think Nemesnikov and Seider and Fabry at times are good examples of that. But in all reality, if the majority of those 5s that you named, Brad, are off, the Red Wings are losing that night. The Red Wings went without star players for so long that I almost in my mind minimized the impact that a star player could have. But, 2 or 3 of those guys have an on night, and all of a sudden the Red Wings are stealing games wherein altogether they didn't look good, but they won 5-4 or something like that.
Yeah, because Larkin had 2-2, Raymond had 1-2, and Bertuzzi had 3-0. Look at all the Red Wings wins. There's stat lines like that in a majority of them. And that's fine. You need those players. Like we said, we're not saying this is necessarily a bad thing. Mm-hmm. The only thing where it could be a bad thing long term, but I think guys have been smarter than that, is they do mask bigger deficiencies on this team because it skews the record, which again is good. It's a positive. I would much rather have good players be good and maybe hide some things that need to be fixed than not have the good players. Totally the end of this you want to be on. But you still hope that the deficiencies get addressed. Because the best way that I can describe this is on the forwards, at least, every Red Wings forward not on the top line is playing a line above where they would play on a good team. The Red Wings second line is probably a third line on a cup contender.
Yeah.
The third line is a fourth line. The fourth line is, the healthy scratches. That's just where this team should be. So when you don't get the matchups, it just gets amplified that much more.
Okay, agree or disagree? Yes, Jeff Blashill has been handcuffed by having no depth, really, no depth that's worth game planning against in a hard way outside of top pairing, top line, and you can't game plan against a goalie. Shoot good, score, know his weaknesses, whatever. And so that's why the road games are rougher for the Red Wings. It's like you said, Brad, highlighting the weaknesses on the team. All that considered, last night's uninspired play is on the coaching staff just as much as the Red Wings. They can't come out looking as flat and bad as they did last night.
In a vacuum, I would say not entirely, because the players themselves look pretty damn unmotivated, so that's on everyone.
That's that LA fever, baby.
Yeah.
But this is coming, they're 4 games deep after the COVID break now, and 3 of the games they've been atrocious, and that 4th game they had a convincing win against basically an AHL team. So
I was trying to think of how dare you disparage the good name of that defenseman on San Jose, and I actually can't remember his name. It was so ridiculous.
Exactly.
I'm sure he's a great player, has a future.
Hey, you made the NHL. Good for you. Yeah. But that stretch, that's on the coaches. You can't have 3 stinkers in 4 games and expect to tread water in the playoff race, especially considering right now, from a COVID protocol and an injury standpoint right now, the Red Wings are in a better spot than damn near 2/3 of the league.
They're good.
Especially the teams they're playing.
A lot of their players are probably good for a while.
The only one that they really haven't had since they came back is Vrana, and they haven't had him all year. So you can't, if you're comparing October Detroit to January Detroit, it's still a fair comparison. And October Detroit would beat the ever-living piss out of January Detroit right now. So yeah, it is what it is. So the fact that it's happening a little too consistently right now, that puts it on coaching.
Much like we've said a lot, Lucas Raymond is going to go through a slump at some point because it's hard to come into the NHL and have 82 productive games for anybody, let alone a rookie. We said Moritz Seider at points this season, whether we like it or not, is going to look not at his best. It's hard. It's a grind. Dylan Larkin and Tyler Bertuzzi aren't going to be shooting lights out all year for every game consistently. The same can be said for coaches. I think that same kind of leeway should be extended, but you do want to see them be the driving factor to pull the team out of this. And then, there's the obvious question. Well, how do they do that? I don't know. We're sitting on a podcast. They're the coaches.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some very obvious examples that Blashill doesn't do, that I think, one of your top defenseman for minutes consistently night in, night out is Danny DeKeyser, and I'm not sure he's a top pairing AHL defenseman at this point.
Who else, though, on that left side?
Literally anybody. I'm not saying that to be funny or mean. Literally anybody.
That's new.
Anybody else?
You, Evan, pull.
Oh God.
My
That
lungs
kid
just
that-
collapsed thinking about
I went
that.
cross-country skiing for 2 hours yesterday. I could barely get out of bed.
That kid that was getting the cheers on the Jumbotron in the San Jose game, any of them. Like,
He shoots right, unfortunately.
fine. I don't care. Like, if they want to put Hronek or Lindstrom on the left side to hide DeKaiser, sure. You can put Mark Stahl there. It's an improvement. You can put Jordan Osterley there. It's an improvement. You can put Nick Leddy there. It's an improvement. I don't care. Again, DeKaiser legitimately is one of my favorite Red Wings because he's been around forever. He's a good guy, and he was good once upon a time. There's no reason to not like Danny DeKaiser. But he is so far over the hill. I can't even make a coherent case why he should be in the NHL at this point, let alone playing key minutes. And again, for all the reasons I just said, I hate saying that because I want DeKaiser to succeed. I like Danny DeKaiser. It's done. It's over. And it has been for a while. And the fact that Blashill doesn't see that yet is a problem. Like, I understand having vet preferences and you have your guys. I get it. But you can't. And you know, I think, who was it? Osterley was a healthy scratch last night. Like a week or two ago, I was saying, hey, this guy actually looks pretty good. He's starting to come around. And then,
The old kiss of death.
yep.
Way to go, Brad.
After 2 periods of play, your team is generating no offense. Maybe play Zadina more than 5 minutes. Again, I'm not saying Zadina is a solution, but in a game that is very clearly a lost cause, he gets a garbage goal late, kickstarts his confidence. At least something positive comes out of that game. Like,
You want to know what Brad missed last night when he was in bed, Evan?
did Zadina get robbed on a point blank chance?
No.
Oh, because that would have been on brand.
Even worse. Let's see how Brad's face turns when I tell him this. A Red Wings player got first line minutes late in the game yesterday.
Hold on. I got to go as ridiculous as I can possibly think. Who's a black hole for offense right now? Adam Ernie.
Worse.
Carter Rowney. Was he even playing?
He was not Carter.
Giovanni Smith. Sam Gagner.
You're literally shooting around the target right now.
I'm just right. Whatever bottom 6 forward comes to mind, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, keep going.
Oh, I know. Who am I forgetting? I know I'm forgetting lots.
Go think younger, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We're thinking of the same person.
Rasmussen's been playing top 6, so he's not that big of a stretch.
Well, okay. Well, way to take the wind out of this one.
He's been playing top 6 since the break. Like,
That was the first person I thought of.
that's not
Is that who you're
surprising.
talking about?
No, but
again, it's bad. Like, the point you were trying to make stands.
Maybe Michael Rasmussen is a first-line player, and this is what we've missed the whole time. That was a piece of the puzzle.
Listen, I'm coming around on Michael Rasmussen as maybe being a third-line winger. Let's not get carried away now, okay?
oh, way to flip the scripts on us, Brad. Can you give us a memo before we record?
Maybe.
Now Evan and I are the assholes.
I think that's funny.
No, and it's like, I don't think Blashill was sticking Rasmussen there. Like, oh, maybe he's a first-line winger. I think it was just like, this game's kaput. Let's just do anything else. But I did have the same thought. Not that Zadina has necessarily earned it, so to speak.
No, he's coming off one of his worst stretches of hockey of the year, and his
career.
His inability to finish is borderline inexcusable at this point. Don't get me wrong, but holy shit, he's one of the most talented players on your team, and this game is a goddamn write-off. This is your time to get weird. This is your time to try shit.
You know what I will respect about it, though, is Blashill said, does not matter how bad we've been this game, it still is 3-0 and not like 5-0. And so I'm going to try to get in any garbage goal. So I can appreciate,
like, trying to not force feeding Zadina just to get him going. I understand that.
yeah. But
Rasmussen's not the right answer, though, so I can agree with the mindset and still say the execution was effing stupid.
if we see a lot more,
if you want to play Michael Rasmussen a little more to protect a 1 or a 2 goal lead, I still disagree with it, but at least I can understand that rationale because his defensive metrics are at least half decent. He's not getting you offense when you're trailing by 3.
if the Red Wings are going to lose, like moving forward now, this was a bad game. That's the tagline for all of this. Moving forward, if the Red Wings continue to regress to the mean and we see an average of between October Red Wings and current Red Wings, like somewhere in the middle, and they lose 1 or 2 goal games more often, and that's how they end up in like that top 10 pick territory, that falls in line more or less with expectations for the season. Like that's an okay way, all things considered, with this year for the Red Wings to bump out of the playoff race in all seriousness. The losses like the loss last night the loss is like the loss against Boston. That's the kind of thing where don't, sound the alarms and blow everything up and fire this person and bench this person and trade this person. That's not what I'm saying. But just as a team, this is the kind of grind you have to go through as you figure out who you are coming out of a rebuild, what success looks like for you, what's your identity. You have to shake those kind of losses and find ways to make games closer. We are going to see more losses like that for the Red Wings this year. It's not all Seiders and Raymonds coming out of a rebuild. It's not easy the entire time. Look at any team who's done this. It's not unique, but this is something that they have to work through from a coaching level and from a playing level.
Well, it's probably going to come looking at your laptop at the end of the month when they've got Pittsburgh and Toronto in back-to-backs.
Yeah.
So that's probably where it's going to happen.
Or they
win both.
Or they win both, and then they lose to Anaheim on the Monday after.
Yeah.
That feels a little more on brand.
So we'll see. Congrats to everyone, all of us who stayed up and watched that entire game, and condolences. I have no nostalgia for when the Red Wings were in the Western Conference at all. I did not miss staying up that late for a game.
No.
I mean, I am happy for our West Coast listeners. I know there's a lot of them who are appreciative when games are out there. Why is it 10:30 Eastern start and not 10? Because that would be 7 Pacific, right?
Why isn't it not even earlier than that?
Well,
especially since it's an East Coast team.
They need to give people time to go home from work, have dinner, go to the game, etc.
On a Saturday.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Anyways, I'm now being an old person by complaining.
There's probably some very good reason that I just overlook every time.
Yeah, and we're going to get told about it, and it'll be a fun fact for next episode. Hey, you had a fun fact that you learned from Mike Comito's Twitter today.
Yeah, I should probably pull it up, but I was not prepared for you to just spring this upon me.
Hey, why don't I come back to it later after you pull it up?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'll do that.
Let's jump into the next topic here. But before I do that, I do want to let you know that this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast is proudly brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. There's so many reasons why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. They're simple to use. They're tons of fun with a lot of unique bet types like same-game parlays and exclusive promotions on the biggest events. And when you win, you get your winnings back safely in as little as 24 hours. There's a range of options like player props, futures, etc. It's easy to place your bet fast during a game if you see a trend you like, and there's unique features like multi-game parlays and same-game parlays. Now listen to this. FanDuel is letting you place your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. Place a bet on any game and they'll refund you $1,000 back in site credit if you don't win. No strings attached. If you win, you keep the cash. If you lose, you get that $1,000 credit. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app to get started with a risk-free bet of up to $1,000, and be sure to sign up with promo code WWP so they know the Winged Wheel podcast sent you. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code WWP. You must be 21 and older and present in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, West Virginia, Indiana, Colorado, Iowa, Tennessee, Virginia, or Michigan. First online real money withdrawal only. Site credit is non-withdrawable and expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-GAMBLER in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, and Virginia. Tennessee Redline 1-800-889-9789, 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-270-7117 in Michigan.
I got it.
You got it?
I got it.
All right.
So at Mike Comito, he does the
History.
This day in hockey or whatever.
Friend of the podcast.
Yep. So he said, on this day in 1918, the NHL did away with the rule that prevented goalies from dropping down to the ice to make a save. Previously, in the National Hockey Association, they had gone as far as fining goaltenders $2 for sprawling to the ice from a standing position.
And?
So this kind of led to the phrase standing on your head, because apparently that was within the rules and would not go against the dropping down to make a save.
Who knew? Wow. Going down and make a save, what's next? They're going to allow forward passes? This game isn't the hockey I grew up with.
Hefty fines back in the day.
Oh, man. $2. $2 whole. What would Ned do? Poor guy. We'll start a GoFundMe for him.
He'll just outscore his problems.
$2 for every time he goes down for a save, but $3 for every goal. Go for it, Ned. Probably easier to score as a goalie back in the day.
Do you think a goalie from this day and age, if they were transported back to the 1918s, would ever give up a goal?
The greatest goalie of all time, 30 games into their career. I cannot imagine.
I don't even think you need to go back that far. I'm like, of the mindset that you take Darren Helm as he is today and drop him into the 80s and he's winning. He's challenging Gretzky's scoring titles because nobody would be able to touch him.
Nedeljkovic can't go down. He has to stand up and abide by the rules.
Oh, they have to be stand-up goalies?
Yeah.
No,
he's probably still never allowing a goal because he's a freak physical athlete. Meanwhile, these guys are probably hacking darts between saves. Like,
Yeah.
That's what gave him their strength. Sergei Zubov would smoke between periods.
he's a Hall of Famer. So
Yeah. Okay, speaking of awards, the Calder Trophy. Previous conversations had Raymond in the firm lead. Trevor Zegras was just starting to warm up, and Seider was in somewhere behind Raymond. Now the picture is a lot of the conversations are Seider versus Zegras and Raymond. Where are you guys at with those three? Who I think we all have a consensus. Those are the bona fide top three candidates right now. I know Bunting. I know there's other guys.
Dawson Mercer's having a good year. Anton Liddell is actually sneaky good right now, too, for Florida.
It's a really good rookie crop.
Ryan, once again, I will not stand for this Tanner Jeannot erasure.
But I guess I'll let you take it. What are your top three, and who in your mind is leading this conversation right now?
I mean, it's to the general voters the least sexy of the picks, but Mo Seider.
That's the least sexy?
He's a defenseman.
I think that's what the fact that you can even say that and not be like absolutely destroyed for it makes it sexy.
Love it.
I'm just biased.
There we go. But Zegras and Raymond have both had extended cold streaks throughout this year, and quite honestly, Seider hasn't. And Zegras has had the benefit of playing with great players in Anaheim on his line. Well, as good as you can get in Anaheim. Raymond's had the benefit of playing with Larkin and Bertuzzi. Seider has been the most consistent, has put up the counting stats for defensemen, and has been doing it while spending a majority of the season with Danny goddamn DeKeyser. What Mo Seider has done this season is by far the most impressive at this point. Now, if Raymond and Zegras both finish on heaters and wrap up the rest of the year close to a point per game, this is probably a different conversation, but they're teenage rookies. That's probably not going to happen. I think the counting stats are there for Raymond and Zegras, but I think everything factored in Seider is the guy right now. Voters won't swing that way because he's a defenseman. It's how it works.
Max and I actually talked with Dmitry Filipovich about this on the Hockey PDO cast, and I'm going to borrow a lot of that conversation today because the LA game didn't give us a lot to talk about, so that's when we like to sneak in these good conversations. But it's worth diving into. Yeah, Brad, you guys know me. I was firmly in the Raymond camp to start the season, and I might venture back in there, but forcing ourselves to pick one, it's got to be Seider for the reason of the degree of difficulty. Like, it is not easy to come in and be a good defenseman in the NHL off the bat, period. Does not matter if you're playing for the Tampa Bay Lightning or the San Jose Barracudas. Like, it is absolutely terribly hard to come into the NHL and be good relative to the rest of the players on the ice in the NHL right off the bat. It's harder to do that when you're not playing in a sheltered role. What does an unsheltered role look like? Playing against the team's top competition.
With Danny DeKeyser.
And your line mate is Danny DeKeyser. It makes a difference. And like, this isn't a Danny DeKeyser is the root of all problems conversation. No, not at all. It is highlighting. No, stop. It is highlighting how good Seider has been. It's not that he's received no help. Yeah, having a forward group who can move the puck up the ice. Seider might not have been able to do this 2 years ago because Larkin, Bertuzzi, Raymond didn't exist as a line. And so the whole ice is tilted back in towards his zone. But still, he's doing this.
I have no stats to back this up, but I feel like Seider plays more with the different pairings, with the different lines, and Hronek gets a lot of the time with the Larkin line.
I would have to.
I could be wrong, but
I'd have to look that up. But for 22 and a half minutes a night, that's not all with Larkin, Bertuzzi, Raymond.
No, God, no. Not even close.
This is something Dimitri brought up. Remember that game against Colorado where Detroit got absolutely blown out? I think it was 7-2 by the end of it.
Yeah.
The 5-on-5 goals were 6-2 that game, and Seider's plus minus was +2. 5-on-5. Obviously 5-on-5 for plus minus. He is doing this at a pro level as if he's been in the league for years. He is doing this when everything would have been like not really anything is in his favor with the way the NHL rookies come in their typical trajectory. He's doing all the little things right. He's doing all the big things right. He's dominating physically. He's showing an offensive acuity that we didn't know was there when he was drafted. When he was picked sixth overall, we didn't know that was in him. And he's playing a defensive game right now that we only could have dreamed he would reach by year 3 or 4. And he's doing this even when the Red Wings are bad right now. Through this stretch of more or less rough hockey, Seider most nights is one of the only shining spots on the team. Raymond, I think, still has been fantastic, phenomenal, and might force voters' hands by the end. And he's done a lot of really great things. I think forwards have an easier time than defense in the NHL's rookies. And I think, Seider's degree of difficulty has been more, and he's the front runner for me.
I was trying to look up Cale Makar's total points in his Calder winning year, but I did not have the time to do that.
I can look it up for you while you go.
But I feel like Seider must be relatively in the same realm in terms of pace for points.
50 points in 57 games.
Oh, nope, definitely not.
Did he do that in his rookie year?
Yep. Holy
That
shit.
was a lot more than I thought it was. Oh my God.
Isn't Makar at like 15 goals already this year? Something insane like that?
15 goals, 15 assists, 30 points in 27 games for Cale Makar.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well, that sort of talks myself out of Moritz Seider.
Okay, but comparing his game to Cale Makar's
They're
offense,
completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, for Moritz Seider, he's playing like second most minutes on the team, which is ridiculous, especially considering he's on a not good team.
And he should probably be playing the most.
Yeah. I think probably Hronek probably plays more than him.
Hronek by very little, yeah.
Yeah, so like I totally would see why Moritz Seider is very deserving of the Calder. Lucas Raymond is probably the best player on this team right now. And there were a lot of conversations at the start of the year. Will he even be on the team, which is crazy at this point. Already has a hat trick. He's had a 4-point game. Like, I think he might still lead all rookies in scoring.
He does, yeah, by 4 points over Trevor Zegras.
Points or goals?
Both. No, he's behind Jeannot by 1 goal in scoring. He's 10 to Jeannot's 11.
Enough,
yeah.
So I mean, the counting stats are definitely there for Lucas Raymond as well, but Trevor Zegras' end of the year, like November, December, was just bonkers. Like if he had been like that at the start of the year, I don't even think we'd be really, itching or contemplating a Red Wings player winning it.
His November, December was Lucas Raymond's October, November.
Yeah, and it's all going to really come down to who continues the form of being a superstar, I think.
Which is tough to do over a full season.
So if I was picking for at the end of the season or instead of right now, I like Anaheim's position to continue putting up points. So I would say Trevor Zegras at the end of the year will win the Calder. If I had to pick right now for who I think it should be Moritz Seider, but who I think they would actually vote would be Lucas Raymond. So really, I solved nothing with that.
Wide open.
Yeah.
Evan, which of these 3 do you like the best? Yes.
Pretty much. I mean, it's not this year's the one where it's as close as it's been in a long time. Like last year, it was Kirill Kaprizov. People tried to make it Jason Robertson. It's like, oh, this guy's been popping off for a month. It's like, well, okay, Kaprizov has played the entire season.
Yeah.
And he's 40.
Evan could be held in like metal chains, like James Bond villain style, like on a cold table with a laser coming up from between his legs. And the villain says, Evan, you have to make a definitive choice or this thing slices you in half from the bottom up. Between these 3, and Evan would say what he just said, and the villain would have to turn the laser off, but he'd be pissed about it. He'd be annoyed about it. You're not wrong. Let me tell you, you're not wrong. I agree. I think the voters, like, there's going to be a lot of split votes. It was just funny because I was like, oh my God, Evan's making a definitive choice here. Oh no, never mind. There it is.
And who knows how the Toronto voters are going to vote too, because they're going to all vote for Michael Bunting. And so that's going to steal votes away probably from somebody in Detroit, because they also have an affinity towards Trevor Zegras.
Okay, there's no discounting Trevor Zegras. That guy is electric. I think as much as we love Raymond and Seider, Trevor Zegras deserves all the praises he gets as well. That goal, the goal that Sonny Milano scored off of Zegras' flip over the net.
He tried it again today.
Did he actually?
Yesterday.
Was it yesterday?
And there was a million posts of Zegras almost did it again, and then you watch the highlight, and it's like nobody was even close to batting.
He just chipped it over the net, and everyone went crazy.
Oh, I'm gonna go back and find every clip of Datsuk doing it.
Yeah, but it is worth noting because not that this is an insult, but it's kind of an insult. I think
not to be mean or funny,
but I think most hockey fans are not aware of how little national hockey writers pay attention to markets outside of what's in their direct vicinity.
So the best teams and then the biggest markets.
The best teams or the highlight plays. So the fact that Anaheim's a better team and Zegras has that signature moment that Raymond and Seider don't have. Seider kind of has his one against Buffalo, but that didn't get as much play as it probably should have. It's going to work against Raymond and Seider because at the end of the year, you're going to remember Mo Seider's season. And what plays are you going to remember from Mo Seider's season? It's going to be like 2. Unless you're watching every Red Wings game. So to people who have watched 5 or 6 Red Wings games all year, and it was probably because they were focusing on the other team watching them, they're not going to have the affinity. Whereas the Ducks are surprisingly good this year. Zegras is a big reason for that. And he has the signature play and a lot of highlight reel plays. He'll get it. And that's not even factoring in, that the fact that those who are knowledgeable and who do follow Detroit and who do their actual legwork before voting, Seider and Raymond are probably going to split their vote. So I'm pretty convinced that Zegras will win it. And then, the other two will be the runners up, but I'm hoping one of them pops off enough that doesn't happen.
Seider will need his Makar moment in terms of just a ridiculous play that makes league-wide news, which is stupid because every night he does something that makes your jaw hit the floor.
But not in a flashy way. He's just so subtly good. Like the clip that Ryan tweeted from last night where he had the toe drag and then another toe drag. He doesn't do that
The
often.
spinorama no-look empty net pass to the middle of the ice that went tape to tape with somebody.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Makar or Seider?
Seider.
Oh, okay.
That was last night.
Yeah.
Right? That was last night? Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I think he does. I know what you guys are saying. He doesn't have a Makar moment every night. And that, those dekes that he has, I think he does do it more often than people think. But so often you just watch Seider's game and it's because it's buried in a team playing otherwise bad hockey. He does do something most nights that makes my jaw drop, but we are watching 82 Red Wings games a year. So it's still a little different.
Yeah, I'm sure most of us watch the morning highlights, whether it's in the States or Canada. The Red Wings don't get any attention this year. And nor should they. They're a team that plays a fairly boring style and they're not that good. I get it. I'm not begrudging the national media for not paying more attention to the Red Wings. I cover this team and there's stretches of hockey where I barely want to watch this team, but it is what it is. But unfortunately, that is going to play against them because exposure matters to voters because if they don't watch you, they ain't voting for you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a point I hadn't really considered a lot about. I was wondering where you're going with that, but yeah, the exposure will matter. And if you don't care about awards and you're like, hey, Henrik Zetterberg didn't win the Calder Trophy and he had a better career than Barrett Jackman. That's who we lost to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But we're petty and we talk twice a week on a podcast, so we care. Anyhow, I think as hockey fans, we're privileged to have a race between those 3 players. And, there's guys who aren't too far behind. You don't know how the next half plus a little bit of the season is going to play out. I just hope.
Hot take. I don't think anybody outside of that 3 is all that close.
They would have to have a pretty phenomenal second half to get in.
Their award would come from the second half.
My very, very biased voting at this point would go Seider, Raymond, Zegras. My removing the bias from the conversation voting right now would go Seider, Zegras, Raymond. That's about as much as I'm willing to take off my rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, taking off my Red Wings colored glasses, the only answer I could come to is that Seider and Raymond tie for first and Zegras finishes third.
I was looking up because Aaron Ekblad also won the Calder.
Yeah.
The other finalists were Johnny Gaudreau and Mark Stone. Aaron Ekblad had 12 goals, 27 assists for 39 points in 82 games.
Wow. That's actually that's a high scoring year for a rookie defenseman, but
He was also first overall pick
Yeah.
in his first NHL season,
yeah.
right after the draft. So a lot of eyes on him.
That's a great rookie class. Like all three of those
He was also
players.
18.
Exactly.
Makes a difference. Makes a big difference. I was happy to see him come back well from his leg injury. That sucked last year.
Oh, yeah. I like Ekblad.
Yeah. Anyhow, we'll see how that shakes out. And as we get closer to the middle of the season, we'll be doing more, midterm reviews and things like that. Very quickly before we move away from the Red Wings here, big shout out to Daniela Bruce. She joined Ken Cal last night for the first time in her career and for the first time in Red Wings history. A woman was on the call on 97.1 The Ticket. That's where she called the game for the Red Wings. Congratulations to Daniela. Hope to hear you on plenty more calls soon. First woman for the Red Wings to call a game, and Daniela does a phenomenal job. Has been on the podcast before. We'll have her again in the future, and just very, very excited for her.
It's dope.
I feel terrible for her that was the game. You were smirking, Brad, and I was like, yeah, I know that was Daniela's first game, and Daniela, we're sorry. That sucks. Oh,
It's like, remember that game we were at last season of the game where Buffalo absolutely shit kicked the Red Wings and they threw Caden Fulcher in mercifully in the third period. And we kind of looked at them and went, good for you. We're sorry what's about to happen to you.
Yeah.
That was basically how that game went for Daniela last night.
we were at that game. Evan and I were at that Boston game that weekend where there was just that weekend where we went to 2 games and where they played terrible hockey.
They had 1 or 2 goals in 2 games.
It was bad. Yeah. It was same energy. So, Daniela, here's hoping that your next one is going to be better.
Compared to that, every game she does now is going to feel easy.
Oh, yeah. Trial by fire for sure. Yeah. Okay. News from around the NHL. Evander Kane placed on unconditional waivers for the purpose of terminating his contract, and he cleared waivers. The NHLPA has indicated that they are going to file a grievance. The San Jose Sharks essentially were able to, in their opinion, and it processed through the league, so it's going to be a fun battle to see. They were able to terminate his contract because Kane broke COVID protocols while he was with the Barracuda in the AHL. So he traveled to Vancouver apparently while he was in COVID-19 protocols. So they were able to terminate his contract, forfeiting $22.8 million for the rest of his contract, 3 years beyond this one. Which
I don't even know what to say. How can you be so stupid?
Oh,
I think I've said that every single time his name has come up with something stupid. And this grievance isn't going to go anywhere because they've got date, times, they've got location, they've got all the evidence. He is there. They have the smoking gun. How can you be so stupid to just throw it all away like that? Especially when you probably owe that much money for your gambling debts, for your other stupid things you do.
it's bankruptcy.
I
stopped asking how could you be this stupid 7 incidents ago. This is why when people ask, let's say they terminate Kane's contract and he's a free agent, you can bring him in on minimum, would you bring him in? I don't want that in the room. I get it. If let's say we've done this, and if Yzerman does a hypothetical, Yzerman's a person who's a GM who's about character, and if he makes a calculation that the room and the team can build a situation where Kane can thrive, they can keep him in line, blah blah blah. Yeah, I'm all behind it. Yzerman has earned that respect. But outside of all of that, who's going to bring Kane in with all this? How many times has Evan had to say, "How could you be so stupid"?
Ryan Reeves slept like a frickin' baby last night.
Man,
I'm thinking of all the teams in the NHL, and what team would really want to roll the dice and say, yes, we've got the locker room that could handle a complete imbecile?
Colorado will take him for league minimum. unstoppable.
I feel like Tampa would maybe as well, but Florida and Evander Kane probably do not mix well.
I've got two candidates.
It's funny.
I've got two candidates. Mark Bergevin just signed as consultant in LA.
That is literally the second worst place for Evander Kane outside Las Vegas.
And okay, you want to send him nowhere? Here's my other one.
Winnipeg?
Buff's not there.
Tony DeAngelo's been good in Carolina this year. You know, say what you want about the person. He's been a good player. Maybe Carolina will see if lightning can strike twice.
Here's the thing. If a team can keep Evander Kane in check, they absolutely should do it. The guy is a good hockey player. Like him or not, he's a productive hockey player. By all rights, the most distracted hockey player there in the league right now. But $23 million, man, for their, like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's one thing to get like caught up in your own personal debts outside and like you make stupid decisions outside of the game, but like you basically just like gave up your job because you're a dumbass.
It's
like don't do this and you'll be okay. He did this and they're like, why? Why did you do this?
For $23 million, I'd crab walk everywhere in public for 5 years.
Oh yeah. I can't even think of something I would possibly not do for that.
Well, we'll save that for Patreon exclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know the ins and outs of like the specific grievance and what the NHLPA might have. It's their responsibility as a players association, players union to do this. They're going to do it no matter how much you agree or disagree.
It's going to be the quickest meeting of all time.
Unless there's a big, kaboom here that we never know, that we might not know about because these things are never released. NHL's a pretty mum market for that kind of fun information. I don't see San Jose not winning this. And yeah, someone's going to get Evander Kane on the cheap, and they're going to have to take the risk of whether he's going to make it through the playoffs without messing this up.
I think the GMs who are thinking about it will ask their 6 or so captains of the team to see if they think they can insert a stick of dynamite into their locker room.
That's actually not a bad call. Like, go talk to the leadership group in the room and say, "Hey, we want to do this."
Because all those players will talk to other players in the league, right? And they'll know some more information that a GM wouldn't probably know through more social lines of communication.
Yeah.
So they might just be like, "I heard from this guy because you were thinking about it that this happens all the time," and that might sway them away. I don't know. I feel like he'll end up somewhere, and it'll just be another chapter in the Evander Kane saga.
Just keep an eye on whichever team brings Dustin Byfuglien out of retirement.
The first round matchup against X team that has Evander Kane.
In more positive news, the Arizona Coyotes don't have the votes that they need to approve their $1.7 billion arena complex in Tempe. Tempe. I need to learn how to say that city.
Doesn't matter. What are we even doing here? I'm not going through the same rant I went on a few weeks ago about how it's absolutely stupid that they're trying to spend billions of dollars in a market that is just not working by whatever analysis you want to use.
Yeah.
This has to be the final nail, right?
Yeah.
What do they do now? They have nowhere to play next year.
Yeah, I think if you don't have an arena, you're basically toast, right?
They're literally talking about temporarily putting them in a 5,000 seat arena. Like, what are we even doing here?
If I'm another owner, I'm pissed because you're essentially funding that team's disaster and that team's money pit.
If I'm a potential owner, I am calling Gary Bettman every day to say, "Hey, look, I know you don't like moving teams, but this is beyond the threshold. This is beyond the threshold."
Well, the other owners are probably saying the same thing. They're like, we're just hemorrhaging money so that you can have your moment where you're like, I made small market hockey a thing. It's like, why don't we just move them to a place that, has the infrastructure, has the fan base? Like, it's just, if you don't get the arena deal done, that's the end of it.
I think it's the end of it. Even if they get the arena deal done, it's just going to fail there too.
Fancy new arena for all 5,000 of you who showed up.
Yeah, you're like, they're going to play in a 5,000 person arena. I'm like, hey, those are pretty good attendance capacity, like percentage numbers.
That would be like them playing in the Kitchener Odd.
Smaller.
Yeah,
The
small.
Kitchener-Rod's 8,000.
God.
That's like pre-renovation auditorium.
And the Kitchener Rangers don't even have the biggest arena in the OHL.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Oh, the sick, optimistic part of me that hates change and wants everyone to be happy and everything to work and not, screw anything up, wants this to work. I keep thinking like hockey is the greatest sport on earth, and it's not about the locale. It's not about the temperature. It's not about whether the city's had hockey in the past. You just have to create the environment. And that's what the NHL and the Arizona Coyotes have failed at. They failed to create the environment. They needed to get on this arena deal 5-6 years ago. And that was part of your rant from a little while back.
Arenas only cost exponentially more every single year because building materials go up, labor goes up. Like the arena they could have built 5 years ago probably would have cost half as much as what it does now.
Yeah. This is slowly turning into a direct commentary in the housing market, but yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
I just want this ride to be over for the NHL. It makes the league look like a laughing stock. Like, I get that there are struggling franchises in every pro sports league, but it really does hurt the league's credibility when you have this is something else. This isn't like, hey, this is an empty arena every night, ha ha ha, the Florida Panthers or something. This is, hey, the Arizona Coyotes literally do not have somewhere to play next year.
Don't other leagues basically just go like, okay, we're moving them, and the owner is like, okay, I'm moving them here, and everyone's like, okay. Isn't that how it sort of works? Like, didn't the NFL just do a whole bunch of moves?
Yeah, everybody went to LA. They have 7 teams now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure St. Louis, the St. Louis Rams, the like Kroenke,
Stan Kroenke, owner of the Avs, by the way,
broke his agreement. Broke not the law, like he didn't commit a federal crime, but broke the agreement. I'm pretty sure has had to pay, or there's some kind of lawsuit to move him out of St. Louis. And he said, "Yeah, I don't care. I'm going to make so much money in LA. I'll pay whatever the fine ends up being." Like,
fair enough.
I inherently agree with Gary Bettman's want to make every market work.
In theory, Arizona should work, right? Like, there's a bunch of Canadians live there. It's a good climate. Like, in theory, it should work, but it just hasn't.
Yeah, it's only been 25 years. Not a big enough sample size yet.
No, let's give it 10 more. Come on.
Yeah.
But the low key, that's what people are saying, though, unironically.
I know.
I'm sure there'll be plenty to come on that. I want to jump into overtime. On this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast, Patreon or Overtime is brought to you by our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/Winged Wheel Podcast. If you want to support the show and help us do things like talk about the Calder race and yell at the TV about the LA Kings game way too late at night. No, I'm kidding. Patrons have been an incredible support, and we appreciate you all so very much. Evans TV That Bangs asks, do you think Thomas Hertl could be the answer to the Wings' second line center needs, even if they need to pay big, like an $8 million year deal for 7 years?
Off the top of my head, I don't have the answer, but you know what question I'm going to ask. How old is he?
Hertl, San Jose Sharks. He's not that old. He is, oh yeah, never mind. 28. I thought he's older than I thought.
I'm out.
Who? Sorry?
Thomas Hertl.
Yeah, he is old, eh?
28. I mean, that's not old, but we're talking over a 7-year deal. He's going to age out of that. That's surprising. Again, I don't want to pretend anyone's been uncovered, but does that mean is there anyone else who you'd be willing to throw that money at?
This offseason, based on who's lining up? No, not really. Barkov was it, and so when he extended, wait till the following offseason. That being said, free agency is still a bad idea. How many times has that worked out for signing big money free agents? It's way more misses than hits.
Washington signed Ovechkin. That worked out all right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good bar to set, I think.
Yeah.
That's a good benchmark. C-Nods asks, do you think the streak mentality never really stopped? So Holland looked for high floors instead of swinging for the fences like Stevie does, relevant to drafting. Example, drafting Lindstrom or Smith. Both are NHLers and both will log games, but with second-round picks, wouldn't you have liked to have seen higher ceilings? I think Holland always felt he needed to draft closer to NHL-ready players for the pressure of the streak and need for success. I really like Stevie's drafting. He's picking up projects and giving them time.
What was the question there?
Well, did Ken Holland draft more high floor, low ceiling players because they were more NHL ready in the interest of keeping the streak alive?
you have the correct answer for the wrong reason. Yes, that is how he drafted. Yes, we were critical of him for him, but I think that's just Ken Holland is the least the most risk averse GM in the NHL. Edmonton's on fire and his thing is to stand pat. How many times in Detroit was it always wait and see, kicking the tires, wait and see, kicking the tires? He does not like risk. So his drafting philosophy followed suit with that. But sorry to wrap up that question, but breaking news, Red Wings just released their projected lines.
What?
Jeff Blashill has a mic in this room.
Oh, no.
Zadina's on the second line.
Hey.
DeKaiser's scratched.
Yeah. Osterley with Seider?
Yep.
I love that. I was literally going to say earlier, just stick Osterley with Seider. It's not going to be like this lights out pairing, but that's fantastic.
We truly are social media influencers, gentlemen.
And Veleno's, we didn't talk about Veleno's at center.
Yeah, he is. We need to spend some time talking about Veleno. It's just unfortunate because he hasn't exactly come in and light the world on fire, but also the Red Wings have been playing some pretty interesting hockey, to put it lightly. But that's good. Veleno centering the fourth?
Yeah, with Giovanni Smith and Sam Gagner. I am so critical of Blashill, but he damn near drew up my ideal lineup. The only thing is he has Rasmussen at center with Nemesnikov on the wing. I'd probably flip that. Other than that, I can't really disagree with anything he did here.
Yeah.
This is the end times. So naturally, now that I'm happy with the lineup, 12-1 loss.
Oh, it's going to look terrible. Zadina's going to look bad. Osterley's going to look bad.
Yeah. Osterley's coughing up the game winner.
Rass is going to have his best game of his career at center.
Absolutely. Everything that I think good is going to happen, this game is absolutely 100% not going to happen.
My favorite part about this is people are listening after the game has been played. But we don't know yet, so they're just going to be
laughing, wow, they were so right about how wrong they are.
Yeah. Miss Days says, I'm certainly no hockey genius, but I'm pretty sure benching a guy then putting him on the fourth line isn't going to improve his confidence nor shooting percentage. Well, I'm glad Brad just read out the lines because now he's back on the second line, so we'll see how that goes.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to take some Reddit questions here. Well-paid scientist says, still learning. Was Hronek particularly, maybe worse than the team as a whole, bad on Saturday night, or am I making an ignorant assumption? Poor Ned, like Bernier and Grice before him, too much is asked. I don't think Hronek had a particularly good game. I don't think anyone on the Red Wings had a particularly good game. Was he worse than the rest of the team?
No, that is literally one of those games where you just take all player assessments, everything, crumple it in a ball and throw it in the garbage. There is not a lot to take from that game when everybody is so bad. It's because even the guys who were kind of bad, you don't know if they were bad because they were bad or because the guys around them were so bad it made them look bad. There's no way to know, so you just throw the whole game out.
It's one of those, it's an outlier in statistics. You remove the three worst and the three best, whatever. It's like Olympic scoring for gymnastics or whatever. These kinds of games, it just, shit gets out of hand and you can't take it into account. 72 Athanasiou says, how do you think we're going to acquire that center that we need? Trade, free agent signing, and now the least popular one, the draft.
The draft.
An additional question to that, is it going to be a 1C or a 2C?
2C. Because unless you're getting unless you're getting first overall, it's probably not a 1C.
Unless on the fourth or sixth overall pick, you get one of the best players in the draft. And how often does that happen?
Rare.
Every other year.
Here's the thing. And this is going to bear repeating quite a bit. We are never going into a draft saying, yes, this player that the Red Wings took at fourth overall or sixth overall or whatever they take it, wherever they take that player, is going to definitely be the best player in the draft. Because if we can say that, then the teams will know that, and that player will have gone first overall. So it always is the case that a player down the lineup can be one of the best players in the draft. So I'm not going to rule out a 1C, but unless the Red Wings win the lottery and finish low enough, I'm not going to bank on it being someone who's going to supplant Larkin at that first line center role. It's just,
if we had two Dylan Larkins, that'd be pretty good.
It'd be fantastic. How many times have we said that? We're beating a dead horse, but it's true. It's incredibly true. Let's take one or two. This comment made me laugh. I don't even know. I don't think there's a question here. It just made me laugh. From Sheesh. Actually, it's Sheesh. Sheesh. Brad is the I loathe when Brad's funny. It is the worst thing in the day.
But that was only funny to you two there.
Yeah. Brad is the Tom Wilson of podcasting. He baits you in by saying shit like, yeah, Leafs fans being low on perennial 20-goal scorer William Nylander is basically the same as Wings fan being low on perennial single-digit scorer Philip Zadina. And now you're thinking, how? He's closer to being Alex Nylander, except Alex Nylander has been a more efficient scorer. I want to argue about this. Huge mistake. Brad's a force. He's unmovable. He's in your head. You don't even hate Zadina, and it's obvious Brad is just trying to punk everyone, and even more obvious that it's working. Brad stays winning, hashtag rent free.
Gotta check that Patreon email to see who that's registered to.
That's registered to either you, Brad, or you, Evan, and I can't figure out which one of you it is.
You think I have time to write out that big of a comment?
I don't even think you can read.
Fair.
I made a really mean short joke to you about the mug, the Winged Wheel podcast mug.
I had him, and I need you to know I had a lot of
I know
comebacks, and I'm like,
I know,
we're not going down that path.
And I have to say, I deserved a punch below the belt, which is another short joke. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself, and I'll expect it one day. But you're a bigger man than I, on Twitter.
We have a mug.
Oh God. All right.
That picture actually was legitimately the first time I think I've seen one of our mugs.
Last question here from Large, the prophet of the towering behemoth, says, would you say this roster is built for the Blashill brand of hockey? Fair enough. I'm most definitely no fan of our head coach. The more I look at the Red Wings play and the slow transformation into a more creative roster, I worry. I'm starting to think the idea that Blashill will do better with better players is something of a false narrative. Am I wrong to think there is a difference in styles between the roster Yzerman is building and the philosophy of Blashill?
It is my literal single biggest concern right now. And I don't want to bring it up all the time because I know a couple seasons ago I was like, probably unnecessarily harsh on Blashill, going in on him all the time, and people got sick of it. But my opinions haven't wavered all that much since then. And nothing that he's done has changed my opinion all that much because, October was great, but it looks like since he's really established his system midway through the season to all the new guys, most of them have regressed. So it is a very real concern, yeah. Now, if Blashill's your guy, you can always tweak the roster to maybe have the Red Wings look a little more like the Islanders because Blashill tries to coach like Barry Trotz. He's just not Barry Trotz. And there is a world where that roster could work. It is not the Red Wings, and based on who they have in the pipeline, it is not going to be the Red Wings. If the Red Wings finish out the year like we've seen over the past couple of weeks with a lot of these bad losses where they look absolutely flat, that concern will be a lot more prevalent. On the flip side, for me, I think Blashill has done enough for this year where I don't think you're unfounded to have that concern, but I think we need to see it play out. / I'm still of the mind that it still doesn't quite matter. Well, yeah, because if the Red Wings get back to looking more like the October Red Wings towards the end of the year, yeah, that alleviates not all of the concern, but a healthy amount. But it just feels like the more he gets his hands on certain players and the team, it never goes forward. The talent jumped forward this year a little bit, and we saw that out of the gate, and it's right back to feeling like the last couple seasons again. And it has since like the beginning of December, if we're being honest.
You're not wrong. I just feel like this feels more like a confluence of shitty events in terms of players being injured, missing because of COVID, the weird break.
The Red Wings have been luckier there than the other teams.
And then some bad hockey, granted. I can't convince myself to be, I don't think what Lars brought up is unfounded, and I don't think what you're saying is necessarily wrong. I do see a path forward for Blashill here, continuing this incremental success. I'm trying to think of this at a macro level and a micro level, and I think we're just in a valley right now. And let's see how long this valley lasts, or whether this is our true plateau,
Nearly a decade.
What's another 10-year sample size? We're going to wrap up. We have to record the Patreon exclusive overtime and then watch this hockey game, which is going to render this entire episode useless. Thank you to all of our name level sponsors on Patreon. My good friend Arjun Shankar, Yves Bartels on behalf of the Sarah Grand Foundation, Kyle Karagitz, Nick Perks, Brett Bailey, Terry, driver of the number 69, Crying Ryan Hannah's Banana Slamma-Jamathon, Taylor Tadgel, Matthew M. Rice, B. Diz, Carl Brutana Nanaluski, Chimmy, Citizen High Five, CJ Sully, Craig Kibble, Derek Enstam, DJ Denton, Evans TV That Bangs, Give Blood a Fight Probert, Greach, Hana Lee, Hassam Al-Qassem, Jay Gollum, Jacob Turner, Justin and the Angry Mob, Kaylin Wood, King Tone, Kyle Hashman, Matt McKay, R.A., Ryan Hubbard, Scott Martin, Stay Fresh Cheese Bags, Brad, I just saw your text, Zach Spring, Zarly Zalapsky, Andrew Bohan, Sam Bankson, Adam, I wish I could finish like Ernie. After Tuesday, even the calendar says, well, WTF. Antonio Gracias, Babe Landeskog, Ben Barron, Connor Leightonen, Dave W., Eric Sinkowski, Evans Tub Bubble Vegetarian Diet Edition. Disgusting. Evans Bingo Card, James Laporte, Jeremy Brocker, John Evans, Josh Yelton, Kevin McCracken, Quaz, Matt Keeler, Logan Stahl, Matt Keeler, Matt S., Max $1 million, Pippi Long Nippies, sorry. Revi DeLuca, Terry Actual, Trevor Pevavar, Zach Handyside, and Zach McCann, a driving range superstar. Thank you all so much. Enjoy this game, and we'll see you midweek.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockey Town Evan.